6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages. He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As the keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. Leave her alone, Jesus replied. It was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me. When I was at university, a friend took me out to a steakhouse and he bought me the most expensive steak on the menu. And this steak was amazing. It was dry aged, it was sous vide, it was everything that you want in a good steak. And it also cost a lot of money. And so I found it really hard to accept this gift without offering something in return. So I offered to pay for the drinks that night, which in reality paled in comparison to the price of the overall meal, but was enough to satiate my pride in that moment. When we look at this story in John 12, we see a bunch of interesting responses to generosity and to the way that we receive gifts. It sort of starts in an interesting way as we set the scene around this dining room, and you have Lazarus, who at some point was dead, now alive again because of Jesus reclining on a table sharing a meal with him. It's put so matter-of-factly, I often miss that detail, but it's a remarkable detail in the story. Then you have Martha, who is serving generously, and Mary, who has this incredible gift of perfume that was worth like a year's wages. And she pours it out on Jesus' feet and she starts massaging it in, and this is where things get a little bit tricky. Judas has an issue. He says, why wouldn't we take the money from this perfume? Why wouldn't we sell it and give it to the poor? And I start to think, man, maybe Judas has a point here. I can kind of get where he's coming from. That's a lot of money being poured out in this one moment, gone in an instant. And yet we see that it's not quite that simple, that there are other things happening in Judas's heart, and we get this little insight into his inner workings. And I find this really interesting because I think it's true for all of us, because oftentimes underpinning the things that we do are these underlying, complicated, tricky, messy workings of the heart. For me, when I offered to buy the drinks, it was because I struggled to simply receive a gift. My friend didn't want me to buy the drinks. He was happy to give me something, and yet my pride would not allow me to simply receive it. I find that interesting. Jesus steps in. Jesus, on the other hand, is quite comfortable receiving this gift. Jesus knows that he's worth it, that he's magnificent and beautiful, and that he's worthy of the gift that is being given. And he shuts Judas down. He says, there will always be poor, and yet I won't be here forever. Quite a confronting line from Jesus. And as we approach the cross, we're reminded of the gift that Jesus is about to give, that in just a few days' time, Jesus is going to lay down his life, the most incredible gift imaginable, so that we could have this new life in him. As I think about this story, I wonder where I would sit in this room. And I think about Lazarus, who's this kind of quiet figure in the story. He gets a bit of an introduction at the start, and then he kind of sits in the background. But Lazarus is this beautiful picture of someone who was dead and has been brought into new life through the work of Jesus. And now here he is enjoying the company of Jesus, sharing in a meal with him. And then you have Mary and Martha who give and who serve generously, recognizing the worth and the value of Jesus, knowing that he is absolutely worthy of all that they would give him. I think the truth is that more often than not, I find myself in the position of Judas. I find that I'm cynical and that the inner workings of my heart can kind of muddy the gift that Jesus desires to give me. That this gift of grace, which is hard to receive because it's received through faith, not through our own work, not through anything we can offer, is something that we can never earn, we can never pay back. And yet my heart tries to do that. And so I say, God can love me and be in a relationship with me if I get my act together, if I sort out that persistent sin issue that keeps hounding me, or if I read my Bible more, if I make it to church on Sunday, and I add all of these terms and conditions onto a gift that is intended to be received simply through faith, not through my own actions, not through what I can offer. My messy heart likes to put all of these extra things in place. So now I ask you, where do you sit in this room? And how will you choose to respond to the most incredible gift that has ever been given, the gift of life found in faith in Christ and his death and resurrection? Spend some time reflecting on that and asking God to speak to you.